You've missed a very eventful hour, and we're going to have it all for you in just a moment. This is a special report from Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Good evening and welcome to Eyewitness News at 6. About 42 minutes ago, we were able to hear the verdict in the Tonya Craft trial after waiting for 4 weeks to find out what that would be. And just like you, we were on the edge of our seats as Catoosa County Court Clerk Norman Stone read the verdict.
Did y'all exit this side, exit that one first, okay, if you don't mind.
Verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant, count number 1, not guilty. Count number 2, not guilty. Count number 3, not guilty. Count number 4, not guilty. Count number 5, not guilty. Count number 6, not guilty. Count number 7, not guilty. Count number 8, not guilty. Count number 9, not guilty. Count number 10, not guilty. Count number 11, not guilty. Count 12, not guilty. Count 13, not guilty. Count number 14, not guilty. Count number 15, not guilty. Count number 16, not guilty. Count number 17, not guilty. Count number 18, not guilty. Count number 19, not guilty. Count number 20, not guilty. Count number 21, not guilty. Count number 22, not guilty. This 11th day of May 2010, signed Dick Prius, foreperson.
Hey, wait, sit back down.
Y'all have a seat.
Okay.
That was the scene just about 5:18 to 5:20 this afternoon. Norman Stone is the Catoosa County Court Clerk. He's been in office 40-something years, and we were told that is one of the last such announcements he'll make. McCracken Poston referred to him as the voice of God in Catoosa County, and so some might say the voice of God set Tonya Craft free this afternoon.
And it was a dramatic moment in there. I'm sure he has some kind of an idea of how what he reads is going to affect a lot of lives immediately afterwards.
And one of the more common concerns, one of the more common questions we've been getting on Twitter and Facebook, people are asking as far as Tonya Craft getting her life back. She has certainly had a difficult time these last 2.5 years as she's faced these charges. She hasn't been able to see her children. And
we're all wondering if she'll be able to see them immediately. Now, of course, the custody issue would be something that would probably take a little bit more time to determine whether she could ask for custody of her children again. But we're wondering immediately if she would be allowed to see her children, because the reason she wasn't allowed to was because she was charged with molesting a child. So we're going to go live to Ringgold. We're going to ask Callie Starnes if she can find out the answer to that if she doesn't already know. And Callie, just bring us up to date on the latest there.
Well, Cindy, we've asked that question actually, and the answer is no. Tonya Craft isn't going to get custody of her children back immediately. There's a whole nother hurdle that she's going to have to jump to go through that process. This is just the beginning, but a very big hurdle that was jumped today. After 22 very long days, the jury found her not guilty on all 22 counts. It was interesting to watch in the courtroom, as it was almost as if there was this kind of letdown, as if you know, the pressure was off, the weight on these folks' shoulders, specifically Tonya Craft, had just been released. I can't imagine what it was like for her in that moment. I didn't get to see her walking out of the courtroom, but reporter Antoine Harris was standing outside waiting for her to come out. I know we've got some video. Walk me through what she looked like, what her face, her demeanor, how did she look?
And well, Callie, if you could picture sort of just a lifeless, sort of just a sigh of relief. I mean, her face, it was very red, she was very flushed, and she was just, you could tell that that weight that you sort of mentioned had just been lifted off of her shoulder. One thing that when we were outside, right when everything started, when the doors opened up, and you can just see just everyone, sort of the securities everywhere. Even just moments ago, security was still escorting some people outside of this building, so it's still a lot of emotion here, still a lot going on outside. And one thing that I want to point out is that when people were, as they were coming outside, there was sort of this roar, like a lion's roar from inside where you were at to outside where I was at, and you could just feel almost the ground shake as people were coming out that courtroom.
You know, they were trying to prevent that, I believe. There was a lot of limitations in terms of who could be in there. They made it where only 39 could be in there with the state, 25 could be there with the defense, and they warned them, the judge did, right before it began, the verdict was read. They warned the folks in the courtroom that if they caused any commotion, if they cheered, if they did anything that showed any type of emotion, they would be escorted out. So certainly some strict guidelines on them inside. However, you could definitely hear the cheers from outside as well as the verdict came down. Our WRCB legal analyst, McCracken Poston, is here now, and you were actually in the courtroom, so you actually got to absorb the feelings that were in there. Walk me through what you saw, and also kind of what your take is on this verdict.
Well, Superior Court Clerk Norman Stone, this is his last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's retiring. He has this unique voice.
He does. I noticed that.
We call locally in the community the voice of God, and when you're a defendant and when you're a criminal defense lawyer, you're sitting there, and when he starts booming in his baritone, it literally shakes your insides out. And so it was just that dramatic today as he read through the 22 counts. There was an incredible tension in the room. This community has been divided, and unfortunately this verdict will not solve that. But the process we go by is the state must prove an individual guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and the jury obviously felt that the state did not do that.
You mentioned this verdict won't solve the problem of a divided community. I would almost argue, I've only spent 4 weeks here, you live here, I would almost argue this might divide it even more so.
Well, you know, it was going to be divided either way.
Yeah. So at this point, what if you were Dr. Lorandos, what would be your plan for your clients?
Well, you know, I would rest right now. But if the pre-trial Tonya Craft is any indication of what the post-trial Tonya Craft is going to be, you're probably going to hear a lot more from her as this goes on. And interestingly enough, a lot of people on the blogs and a lot of people out there have been really drawing attention to this case. Anytime an individual is charged with this type of offense, this is the type of trial they get. You're almost digging yourself out of a hole just to be charged with this type of thing. So, in a sense, it worked for Tonya Craft. This system worked. As faulty as everyone was claiming that it was, it worked for her.
Well, and it will be interesting. You know, I do know that she is making her way to New York to go through the network circuits. You'll see her on a lot of the network stations, and like McCracken said, it will be very interesting to see if the next big case like this, the defendant doesn't choose to go to the media first with her story. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Callie.
So I would expect we'll see Matt Lauer, perhaps, speaking with Tonya Craft very, very soon. That would be my gut feeling.
We, of course, will let you know as soon as we find out. They generally keep us posted on what they're doing, and they have relied heavily on Callie Starnes and Melidia Kluel for the material that NBC put on the air during this trial and their coverage.
And you know, if I were Matt Lauer, I think I would have to ask her, do you want your job back? Are you going to sue the Chickamauga school system that let her go after these charges came forward? A lot of questions. We'll probably get some answers in the next day or so. Many of you have wondered what the reaction was outside the courtroom. Our Channel 3 Eyewitness News cameras were there as Tonya Craft's acquittal was announced.
It's amazing.
And
Not guilty. Not guilty.
there you see, they're telling the folks who are assembled outside, spectators, supporters, observers, reporters, the not guilty verdict.
My guess is those were the people we heard in the hallway when the first verdict was read.
I think you're right.
Yeah, the first not guilty.
And I think All right, now we also have the other, what do we have here? I'm sorry. Okay, this is
Oh, her
TonyaCraft
supporters are
supporters
also.
leaving the
All right.
courtroom, what you're about to see right now.
Yeah. If y'all exit this side, exit that one first, okay, if you don't mind.
All these folks were warned ahead of time to suppress any emotions, and they're doing a pretty good job there. You'd never know they were leaving a trial in which their side won.
They were all there in support of Tonya Craft. We understand the judge allowed 25 people to sit on her side of the courtroom supporting her as the verdict was read.
And as we've heard many times, her family mortgaged their home, pretty much put their life savings into this defense. Now, this was the other side. These are the folks who were on the side of the prosecution, and their mood and their demeanor just as somber as they're leaving here. They're certainly not pleased with the not guilty verdicts on all 22 counts. And as our reporters mentioned a little while ago, you're not seeing the judge, you're not seeing the prosecutors. They made themselves unavailable for interviews or comments. And we'll just have to see in the days to come if they will open up and tell us what they think about the verdict.
They made a quick exit from the courthouse, and we weren't able to even get a camera on them. But right now, let's get a camera on Callie Starnes and Antoine Harris. They are still there in front of the courthouse with more for us.
Well, Cindy, you mentioned we're still here. I think we'll be here for a while. I think there's a lot of stories to go through now that we have a verdict. Certainly, we've talked about Tonya Craft's use of the media through this whole process. You know, the whole reason a gag order was issued was because she was going through and giving her stories to local TV stations. She talked to Channel 3 very first with her story, and the plan now is, now that the verdict has come down, her plan is to now take her story to the media again. And as McCracken Poston mentioned, that's very rare. You don't see that a lot. Reporter Antoine Harris is with me now. We do a lot of stories day in and day out. It's very rare that we get to talk to the defendant before it goes to court.
Especially with a case that was dealing with such serious charges.
Right.
One thing that there's always usually this media resentment for us to get a chance to talk to them and hear their story. And the biggest, the biggest thing that came down was that gag order. Once the gag order sort of hit, it was sort of the nail in the coffin for her media campaign. But then again, you know, we were able to talk with others, you know, family and friends and those who were sort of involved in her life. As a matter of fact, many of them, when they came pouring out the courtroom, I had a chance to sort of get in front of them just to hear them. And we have a little bit of sound from that we're going to play for you right now.
Not guilty on anything. We knew it. Hallelujah. We are so thankful to our God. Thank you, Lord. It took so long.
You can really feel emotion in that soundbite, and interesting that you talked to her. Her name's Barbara. I've talked to her several times since I've been here, and Barbara is actually from Dalton. Before this trial, she never knew Tonya Craft. She saw her story on Channel 3, and she felt led to be here because she felt in her heart, she said, that Tonya Craft was innocent. And so she has been here day in and day out supporting her, and even on oxygen, if you noticed, you know, she has major health issues. There's so many people like that have been here that didn't even know Tonya Craft, and they've been here showing their support, and certainly the emotional letdown at this point is just really immaculate.
And you know, another thing that sort of the Truth for Tonya, the website and the stickers, I had a chance to talk with some of those that were behind that, and you know, they were saying from day one she was very innocent. And as a matter of fact, we have a little bit more here that you just want to see. This is just more emotion from this trial after the verdict was read.
But Lord, those children, we got to remember the kids that's been put through all this. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Oh. Not guilty. Oh.
And as you can just see some of the emotion, you can just hear it in her voice, sort of just that weight lifted as well. It's almost as if everyone was on trial, so to speak. And once that verdict was read, it was sort of surreal. Now, you were actually inside that meeting room, that little closet. What was sort of the feeling inside there once all the counts were read?
It was dead silence. You know, there were so many times through this trial where we had to be really careful not to react because we were literally sharing a wall with the courtroom, and a lot of times people inside could hear what we were saying, so we had to be really careful. But I think we all just kind of looked at each other. We really didn't know what to expect, and I think that it's the same with those supporters. You know, whether it be the media, the attorneys, the supporters, or the people here on behalf of those little girls, so much was invested in this case, whether it be taxpayer dollars or time, or just people's time away from work. There was so much invested in this case that certainly I think everybody is relieved that it's over, and certainly maybe a little surprised by the verdict.
And I think that the next question is, hearing from the prosecution, it's sort of the burning question is, you know, obviously they made a case, they believed that Tonya Craft was guilty of what she was being accused of, but now it's the question of whether or not they will be willing to come forward with their story. And if they even sort of, if they missed a mark that really didn't seal the deal for this verdict, but it was definitely one thing that you pointed out that was definitely interesting was as the Twitter updates were coming, as you guys were in there, I had a chance to look at it from a monitor inside one of the trucks, and you could just sort of, that same silence, and I said this earlier, it's almost like the whole city just sort of went silent. There was sort of this silence that went across the entire city until after the verdict was read, and one of the big things now is, where do we go from here? I guess that's the big question. What happens next? Tonya Craft goes on her media campaign nationally. Where does the prosecution go? You know, and so it's a lot of questions out there still.
Well, I think you make a valid point because past the media campaign, past what Tonya Craft plans to put out there, she's got her life to think about. You know, will she go back to teaching? Will she find a job? Will they allow her to go back to teaching? Will she decide to stay in Chickamauga? There are so many questions for her and her family because, as we talked about earlier, while this verdict wraps things up for the court, it doesn't wrap things up for the line that has been driven, the divide between these two groups of people, and certainly a line that will continue, I think, in this community. The other big question, of course, as you mentioned, the state. There's been so much that has been discussed through this process about things that they did, whether or not the judge was fair in some rulings, how the state was treated versus the defense was treated. Those are a lot of the questions the media is going to want to ask Judge House and the prosecution, and I'd really like to think that they'd step up to the plate and answer those questions, but I wouldn't bet that we would hear from them. I hope that we do.
And you were here from day one. I've literally been here the last 3 or 4 days, but you were here from day one. And did you see sort of how the defense, do you feel as if, or I guess their biggest obstacle, a lot of the objections that they face, the defense faced a lot of objections. Was that something that was sort of common? Did they almost seem as if they accepted the objections that were coming at them, like there was no way to get their point across?
Well, the difference between the state and the defense is that, the state is local. Both assistant district attorneys work in this community. They know the Georgia law very, very well. They work it every single day, whereas, some of the defense are coming from in out of town. So I think they had to catch up, and once they did, things moved more smoothly. Certainly those objections, though, were something to talk about. Well, we're going to send it back into the studio now with Cindy and David, and we'll have more for you in a few minutes.
All right, Callie, Antoine, thanks for that wall-to-wall coverage we're getting. We want to let you know also that Paul Barris is standing by with our forecast. We will not end this half hour without checking in with him. Good
point. The weather goes on no matter what. It was about 1 hour ago the verdict was read in the Catoosa County Courthouse courtroom, and what I want you to look out real carefully here, you're seeing Tonya Craft, the back of Tonya Craft, and as the verdict is read, the 22 counts, you're watching a woman who doesn't know if she's going to be set free or if she's going to have to go to jail. Let's watch her reaction.
Verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant, count number 1, not guilty. Count number 2, not guilty. Count number 3, not guilty. Count number 4, not guilty. Count number 5, not guilty. Count number 6, not guilty. Count number 7, not guilty. Count number 8, not guilty. Count number 9, not guilty. Count number 10, not guilty. Count number 11, not guilty. Count 12, not guilty. Count 13, not guilty. Count number 14, not guilty. Count number 15, not guilty. Count number 16, not guilty. Count number 17, not guilty. Count number 18, not guilty. Count number 19, not guilty. Count number 20, not guilty. Count number 21, not guilty. Count number 22, not guilty. This 11th day of May 2010, signed Dick Prince, foreperson.
Hey, wait, hey, sit back down.
Y'all have a seat.
Okay.
My hearing may have gotten a little better since an hour ago, because Cindy, I did hear some cheers around count 16, count 17.
Yeah.
Word was getting around that a trend was underway, and it looked like it was going to be a complete acquittal.
Now, immediately after it was over, the jury was escorted out. They were loaded up on a bus, and we did hear right before the verdict was read that the foreperson did say he would speak to the public on behalf of the jurors. The others had all said that they did not want to speak to the public. They quickly left the courthouse before the audience in the courthouse was allowed to leave as well.
And it wouldn't be that unusual if some of them changed their mind in the next day or two, because in the jury of public opinion, this was a very popular verdict. Judging from what we're seeing on Facebook and Twitter and have seen for the last couple of weeks, some of these jury members might be persuaded to go public, because this is not such a controversial case that they would be necessarily targets of abuse for going public.
A lot of folks are saying it split the community, but some of the things we're seeing, of course, this is totally unscientific, but we are seeing more than 90% of the people who are commenting are saying they believe she was not guilty.
And some of the comments are very frank, and folks aren't holding anything back. You can check out our WRCB Facebook page for some of those opinions. And as this may come as a surprise to some people, some of you may have expected this, but now that it's over and Tonya Craft is free and acquitted on all counts, not only is she going to speak, she's going to speak on a national level. You'll probably see her on a lot of network morning shows tomorrow morning, and she'll be a national celebrity within 24 hours.
And they'll be there analyzing the case and talking about it, and a lot of folks are going to be talking about it from afar, and we do hope they get all their facts straight.
Yeah, because there have been questions about that. Sometimes the national media comes in a little late, and things get a little mixed up along the way. Now, we can tell you that NBC Nightly News is coming up in about 10 minutes. Of course, we're going to have the weather forecast from Paul Barris before our newscast is over. But for those of you getting in a little bit late, if you've been wondering how this trial would play out after now 22 days, it's over. And Tonya Craft is acquitted on all counts.
Let's go one more time to Callie and Antoine. Well, maybe not just one more time, but we are going to go back to them for more from Ringgold in front of the Catoosa County Courthouse.
David, Cindy, you guys were talking about the jury and their decision. You know, of course, there are a lot of wagers on when they were going to come back. The thing that I heard a lot, though, is it must have been a fairly easy decision for them to come back this quickly. You know, with 22 days invested in this case, they certainly have heard a lot of testimony. So I would imagine they were pretty sure of their decision to come back this afternoon after just being charged yesterday. So it'll be interesting. I think you're right, David. I think we will hear from those jurors who made those decisions, because I think that a lot of this community will give them a pat on the back. They certainly got a standing ovation from people coming out of the courthouse today as the jury was bussed away. People stood on the sidewalks together, looking at that bus, clapping their hands and saying thank you. So certainly a very intense moment. And also, as you mentioned, Tonya Craft is probably going to become a household name. But aside from that, there's a lot that is still going to happen here now that this trial is over, I believe.
That's right. It's a lot of stories that still have to be told. One of those obviously is the jury. People want to hear from the jury. They want to know what they are thinking and what exactly went through their head during that entire process. One thing we want to do is, before we talk more about this case, is let's look at some more of the reaction that was felt outside that courtroom.
21, not guilty. 22, not guilty. Woo! Praise God! Praise God! Woo!
the screams, and you can hear the screams, and you can hear just the emotion. And one thing, Callie, you being here since day one, you got to see this thing unfold from the very beginning to the very end. And a lot of times, the prosecution, they said that there was there was sort of a shoddy investigation, was what the defense said. And just kind of touch on that for just a second.
Well, I think that, you know, the CAC, the Child Advocacy Center, there's a lot of questions about how they conducted themselves. I think the challenge for these groups in this community going forward is, in lieu of the Tonya Craft trial, finding new ways of doing things, updating things, finding new ways of interviewing children. So it will definitely be something to watch in this community to see what changes are made. And we'll certainly be bringing you those stories from Catoosa County as well. We're going to send it back into the studio now because we definitely want to check on the weather with Paul.
And we are going to hear from Paul in just a minute. We have just learned from Lydia Kluhl that you'll hear from Tonya Craft on Channel 3 exclusively tonight.
She has been interviewing her just as we've been speaking, and we'll have that for you at 11 o'clock this evening, something really we're all looking forward to seeing.
This will be her first chance, obviously, to let everybody know how she feels about the coverage, the support, the comments, the trial. You'll hear it tonight at 11 on Channel 3. Paul Barris is standing by. Folks have been waiting to hear about the weather. Let's go to Paul.
All right. I'm told my computer isn't working, although it's working here. I don't know what's wrong with it. So I'm just going to have to tell you what's going to be happening across the Tennessee Valley, and just going to be me, folks. All right? We can take a look at the live Doppler radar, our network right now. There's no showers or anything to speak of across the Tennessee Valley. So generally, we'll just leave that up, and I'm just going to read you the forecast, because that's basically all that we've got right now. Unless they can find the right button to hit in the back if something's working. If it's not working, I'm not sure. All right, we'll just read the forecast. Okay, let's for tonight. Temperatures will be dropping down to about 65 with some clouds, lots of humidity. For tomorrow, it's going to be warmer and breezy with high temperatures near 85 degrees and a southwesterly wind. Tomorrow night, it'll be fair and humid with 66 for the low. And then for Thursday, get ready. It's going to be sunny and it's going to be hot. High temperatures by Thursday near 90. 85 tomorrow, 90 for Thursday, and scattered showers and possibly a thunderstorm developing up on Friday. Saturday, an isolated shower. Sunday, it looks like some widely scattered showers once again. So that's the way things are looking right now. Hopefully we'll get this computer system working.
All right,
we'll
Paul.
go back to the desk.
Thank you very much. Glad it's not so eventful in weather, so
Yeah,
everything's
we are.
nice and quiet. We've talked about some of the comments on Facebook. Folks have really been pouring out their emotions. We just want to share a couple of them with you with some various viewpoints. One writes, "I'm so glad this trial is over. Tonya was proven not guilty. The parents should be ashamed of putting this garbage in their kids' heads and putting their kids through this horrible trial and putting Tonya and her family through this horrible nightmare."
And here's one that almost sounds like it's on the other side. However, she doesn't say that she believes Tonya was guilty. She just simply says, in cases like O.J. Simpson, just because you are found innocent doesn't mean you are innocent to civil hearings. And knowing that this is the same court and judges that will hear her custody case is really bad. We'll keep you posted on that and which court it actually ends up in.
That's the next step, and it's a big one, certainly, as she tries to regain custody of her children. Back to Ringgold now, the Catoosa County Courthouse. Callie Starnes going to wrap up her day for us, and what a day it was.
It certainly was, David, and things are quieting down here now. The courthouse lawn is empty. I do have to say, on behalf of Lydia Kluhl and I, it has been a long 22 days, but we appreciate the viewership that we've received. And once again, we have confirmed Lydia Kluhl has sat down with Tonya Craft. It will be an exclusive interview you will see here on Channel 3. And only fitting, Lydia was the first to take her story through the Tennessee Valley in the beginning, and she'll be the first this go around as well. So certainly tune in tonight to hear from her. Don't forget about Twitter, WRCBTV.com, these outlets that we use. It's not just for this trial. They continue throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month and the year. So certainly stick with us on the next big story, and we'll continue to follow what comes next in the Tonya Craft saga here in Catoosa County.
Callie, a lot of folks are hooked on Twitter now because of you. And what I heard, you are called Thunder Thumbs now by some of the folks in the pool room. Great job out there doing that and keeping us posted on this case.
Yeah, you all were our eyes inside the courtroom, and we appreciate that. So for all of us here at Channel 3 Eyewitness News, both here in the studio and at the Catoosa County Courthouse, we want to thank you for watching. And just to review, after a day and a half of deliberations, the jury found Tonya Craft not guilty on every count, all 22 of them.
And one more time, we want to let you know we will have an exclusive interview with Tonya Craft tonight at 11 o'clock. Be sure and tune in for that.
NBC Nightly News is next.